This is Ashok Vyas sharing an article from the book Falling in Love with India. Chapter 7, My Journey to the White House by Dr. Purnima Voria, who is founder and CEO of the National U.S. India Chamber of Commerce, President Rajasthan Foundation New York chapter, and former national advisor to the U.S. Secretary of Commerce. She is also international author and motivational speaker. Here we go. I was born in Ajmer, Rajasthan, the land of palaces, colorful clothes, royalty, an elegant atmosphere, and the great rich culture of the land. Ajmer is known for its Jain temple and Dargah Sharif, inviting visitors from all over the world. My childhood memories are vivid as I was born into an affluent family. I always looked like a princess, clad in royal attire. My father, Mishri Lal Nagar, was a self made millionaire who was an entrepreneur by heart and the founder and CEO of Nagar Engineering Company. Childhood breezed through into a transitional move for me to Jaipur, the beautiful pink city in Rajasthan, my cultural heritage. The memories of the state of Rajasthan in India are as close to my heart today as they were during my childhood. As I recall my childhood memories growing up in Jaipur, the city reminds me of savoring the unique blend of spiced food around the streets of Jaipur. One also senses a blend of traditional warmth through the culture that lifted my spirits no matter where I went. Growing up, my biggest institution was my home. My best teacher were my late parents, Mishri Lal Nagar and Dak Devi Nagar. As a teenager, school was my life dance, music, art, culture, leadership in class. I was fascinated with life and survival skills I could learn, which prepared me for a lifetime of leadership. Before I knew it, I was a young 16-year-old beautiful girl engaged while I was in 10th grade, forced into an arranged marriage where parents choose your life partner. At age 18 to a 30-year-old man, as soon as I finished high school, there was big age gap and therefore maturity, perspective of life, and wisdom differed a lot. After marriage, my love for India and my passion to be well dressed when going to a party was a cultural norm that was frowned upon by my husband unnecessarily. Loving my strong Indian heritage was my strength. The Purnima of today is seeped into Indian culture. This is my love for Indian legacy, a part of my life filled with agony and conflict. But I refer my success to my strong Indian roots. We moved to America and lived in Michigan, which was a reality shock for me. I had my first child at the age of 20. I still remember looking out the window and seeing the snowflakes that looked like cotton falling from the sky. In India, I used to see fields of cotton growing, but this was such a scenic view and unlike anything I had seen before. Although I had no friends or relatives in that foreign land, being an Indian opened the door for me in the US. Wearing a sari on the streets often led to an exchange of smiles, and it seemed like everyone was embracing not just me but my culture as well. Family and Indian roots were an asset in this foreign land that was so much like home. Everything I did was so well received here in the US. I taught Kathak and Indian classical dance not only at home to my daughters but also to the community members, Indians as well as Americans, giving them a taste of diversity through dance and music. To get my mind off things and to keep busy, I asked my husband if I could get a job, and he surprisingly agreed. My first job in the US was at JC Penney's, a department store. This was a very valuable decision for me because it taught me some practical things about America, like its currency and culture of doing business. My husband got a new job in New York, so we moved there. Having loved the empowerment that came with having my very own job, I set out to find a job in New York as well. I got a data entry job at manufacturer Hanover Bank and basically punched numbers into a tool all day. My husband decided that I was 20 years old. I needed to start having children instead of working. That was when I got pregnant in 1980 with my eldest daughter Pooja, who quickly became the light of my life. We then moved to Texas and brought our first home. Our first home, my daughter's joyful birth made it feel like a home for first time since moving to the US. I then got a job selling Tupperware products door to door. I absolutely loved sales and business. Entrepreneurship was in my blood, and I quickly became the top seller in my territory. 2 years after having my first daughter, I gave birth to my second daughter in 1982, Anjali. Having two kids now, I stayed at home with them. I loved having the opportunity to watch my daughters grow up. In 1989, my youngest daughter, Rakhi, was born. We left Texas shortly after and moved to Colorado since my husband landed a job at Rocky Flats plant in Boulder. Things in my life took an unexpected turn on Christmas of 1992 when my daughters were 3, 9, and 13. Every year, my husband would go back to India to visit his parents for 2 weeks. That time, however, he did not come back when we were expecting him. In fact, he did not come back for 3 years. Without informing me or three daughters, my husband decided that he wanted to leave his family and move back to India. His leaving unexpectedly left me completely unprepared, as I was unaware that he was planning on leaving the US to settle in India for good. You may say, you must have known he was planning this. How could a father just abandon his wife and daughters without any notice? But I'm telling you, it was a total shock to me, even though it was pre planned by him. He wanted to find a way to force me to go back to India with our daughters and to be a subservient and obedient daughter-in-law. He told me that he wanted me to learn a lesson about being a proper housewife. It was a shocking experience to be left in a foreign country. Yes, I had lived in America for 10 years by that time, but I had never paid a bill, seen our bank accounts, or really worked outside of the experiences I shared 8 years prior. There were times when I thought to take my daughter and move back to India as it was my home country where I understood the culture and had family support. However, I knew that was not in the best interest of my daughter's future from an educational, professional, and cultural perspective. United States is famous for being a land of opportunity. I could not turn around and snatch that opportunity from my children. I had two choices: either take the easy path and go back to India, or be bold and stay in the US for my children and their future. I chose the latter. Despite the challenges I knew I would face, and I wouldn't change my decision for the world. It allowed my daughters to get a strong education and be independent, and it allowed me to become a successful businesswoman and entrepreneur. So you must be wondering, how did she go from that subservient woman to who she is today? I'll be honest. For months, I was extremely depressed and didn't go know how to cope. I felt like I failed as a wife, but at the end of the day, I knew that I had to turn my tragedy into triumph in order to support my family. To make ends meet, I had to work three jobs. My youngest daughter turned 4, so she could go to preschool during the day. In the evening, her two older sisters took care of her. I slept only an hour and a half between jobs, and having a meal with any of my children was extremely rare. A year later, the department closed and I was laid off. I was disappointed, but I developed confidence after being successful at US West. I got the job, and that they were impressed with all that I had done at US West through my day job and leadership skills in the diversity initiatives. The salary that they offered me was equivalent to an engineer's salary, basically the amount that my husband was making when he was in the US. As you can imagine, I felt on the top of the world. I knew then that I could survive whatever else that come my way, and there was no stopping me. When one door closes, another one opens. All you have to do is persevere. In 1997, my husband suddenly decided to come back. He wasn't happy with me when I was just volunteering in the community. So imagine how unhappy he was with this new career woman. He had a hard time digesting the fact that I was making the same salary as him and that I had finally become self sufficient. He fell into depression and threatened me daily with divorce. I finally got fed up and said to him, "People who want a divorce don't talk about it, they just do it." He was shocked to hear these words come out of my mouth, and frankly, so was I. But I was done being reprimanded for following my dreams and making something of myself. At that juncture, I thought I was making something of myself. At that juncture, I thought I was done blossoming and growing, but I wasn't. I didn't realize that there was so much to be discovered and rediscovered about me and the rest of my life. It was time to fearlessly take reins of my life based on who I was as an individual, in spite of the shackles I had worn of marriage. Physically and emotionally, I was about to taste freedom. I had many conversations with myself. Soon I realized my life was like a river flowing and creating my own path, passing through while touching through the rocks, animals, plants. I kept moving constantly, but also experienced that it was a difficult passage and there was a lot of pain in the process. But the tremendous gain was what kept me going because I believed in the future. Soon after, I got served divorce papers. This led to another nightmare since everything we had was controlled by my husband. By then, I was risking everything. We had our home, bank accounts, and the kids' education accounts. Everybody turns to something in tough situations, whether it is a friend or family member. At the time, divorce was unheard of in Indian community, so I was not supported by my friends. Instead, I turned to spirituality. I was guided by a nice priest who put my mind to rest by advising me to put my worries in God's hands. He said that if you stay awake all night worrying, the judge is still going to award you the same amount he would if you sleep all night. So why don't you just sleep? He replied, "No one can change one's fate or destiny except it. Don't look backward, look forward." His advice gave me a closure on the past and a very positive outlook on the present and future. I also remembered the quote, "The past is history and the future is unknown, so focus on the present. It's a gift." In 2003, after Y2K, I saw that there were 82,000 job losses in Colorado and that corporations were moving out. The Denver Post newspaper was filled with negative news regarding Indians taking jobs away with the outsourcing. There was fear in the business community. Where people saw fear, I saw an opportunity. I met with political and business leaders that I was always supporting during US elections and talked to them about the various opportunities that existed between Colorado and India, and then, in general, for all the 50 states of the US regarding all industries, including Bollywood and Hollywood collaborations, export and import, skies resorts, tourism, and more. All were very surprised as they were not aware of these opportunities abound and offered to help create a need based international organization now known as the National U.S. India Chamber of Commerce NUICC to promote bilateral trade and investment between the US and India and also offered to serve on the advisory board. Hence, the birth of NUICC took place in 2005 where my entrepreneurial journey began. NUICC took off. People found strong value in my organization in the midst of globalization. I received the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, in the US, attended high level receptions and presidential meetings in Washington, D.C. and India, and met with elected officials to open their doors to bilateral trade and investment. The moment was seized for me. I missed my parents and wished they were alive to see that day and know that I was fine and was climbing up the ladder. In 2014, I was again appointed as an advisor to new US Secretary of Commerce Penny Pritzker. That position enabled me to be well connected to all the federal agencies. So I started receiving many invites from the White House and astute business organizations. I also accompanied Ivanka Trump during the GES 2017 US State Department VIP delegation to India. I feel grateful to have also been awarded the Wall Street Journal's Business Women of the Year, a Congressional Medal of Distinction for Growing Bilateral Trade, a World SDG 16. Now, as I return back to India as a non resident Indian, I love the experiences and relationship I have with the country that gave me my roots. One of the best visits I had to regal India was in a luxury train called Royal Rajasthan on Wheels. When you think about my story, it was a combination of determination, hard work, connections, and sheer luck. Tragedy really depends on the way you see it. I saw it as an opportunity to prove myself and my daughters was. We chose to be strong creators of our own destiny, adventure of an unknown future, and turn the pain into the thirst that encouraged us to move forward. Most of all, we never chose to be victims in this world and never let circumstances feed the dark side of our soul. I'm privileged to be the architect of three strong, economically savvy daughters. And to my daughters, I say, don't give the reins of your life into anyone else's hands. Don't let anyone take your self respect and pride. No one should ever strip your dreams away from you. Create your own destiny and live your life to the fullest because you only have one life to live. When I was talking to my daughters about this book, I asked them the biggest lessons they learned from me. My oldest daughter, Pooja, said she learned that success requires discipline and practice. Success wasn't an option for my sisters and me, it was an expectation. She said, my mom taught us that to be successful at something, we needed to practice and be disciplined. She said that successful people aren't born geniuses, but instead get there through grit and effort. My daughter Anjali said relationships are the true currency. Every relationship counts. Treat everyone with kindness and respect, and don't be afraid to put your connections to work. Having relationships isn't enough. It is what you do with them that matters. Cultivate, cherish, and nurture them. Finally, my youngest daughter Rakhi told me when I was growing up, my mom would take me to her business meetings. I complained about this a lot as a child, but in hindsight, it was the most valuable experience training ever I have ever received, said Raki. As a young girl, I learned how to influence, negotiate, and connect with people at varying levels, particularly in male dominated forums. I dedicate this story to my country of birth, India, to express my renewed love, and to the US, the land that helped me witness the beginning of my story of success and its growth. My purpose in sharing is to be a change agent and to impart courage and hope. As Helen Keller once said, optimism is the faith that leads to achievement. Nothing can be done without hope or confidence.